Hey, y'all. Hey. Hey, y'all. Hey, this is Ann with Andale Homestead.
Hello, everyone. This is Keith over at Ormsby Farms.
And this is Monica at Bland's Promised Land Ranch. How are you guys tonight? I hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. It has been a little busy around here. I think everybody's been kind of busy today. I
I
know
think
Miss
we
Ann
have.
had her Tuesday this morning, and there's been all kinds of goings on here around the farm for us. And I know Casey's been super busy. He's got some big family things coming up. So I'm excited to be here this Tuesday evening. I really am. And it's always fun to be here with our friends on Tuesday evenings.
It
And
sure is.
speaking of our friends, Miss Ann, would you like to welcome in all our beautiful friends?
I would love to. Now, I do have a little echo going on. But yes, I would absolutely love to say hello to everybody. Jackie C was the first one in tonight. She is amazing. And our superhero on the side is Jessie with Lazy Days Ahead with Jessie and Lisa. That's right. Hearts for everyone. Our other precious mod is not for nothing, Ginger. Ginger, you're amazing. She says, "Hey, everybody, I made it in as long as I don't get a call." And I totally get that. Hey, Rebecca, touched by yarn. Thank you for praying for Ginger. She and her family are going through some things. Jesse's girl. Jesse's girl. I love that woman very much, very much. James Hall. Hey, sweetie. I'm so glad you're here. And Scotty, Lone Cross Scotty. Howdy ho, family. So tonight, thank you all so much for coming in. We're going to be talking about foraging. Foraging. Now, that is a word that I didn't even know what it meant for a while, but we went around and learned a few things, a thing or two. And if you had a chance to listen to our podcast, our sweet Sandy was in this podcast this time, and she is such a plethora of information. We're going to invite her occasionally to come and join us again, but right now, we're taking up the slack and learning with you. So, what we're doing is we need you and your input to help us learn even more about foraging. So, Monica, there was a little comment you had on the podcast about foraging. Where is it that you forage for your herbs and things?
Probably from the store or Amazon.
What you said.
Yeah,
Was she questioning? She didn't remember.
I don't remember. But you know what I did? I thought this was really appropriate today. So most of you guys know that I'm really struggling with my back, and I have been going to the chiropractor pretty much every week, if not multiple times a week, since mid-March. And today we left the chiropractor, my dad and I, and we went to this little barbecue place down in Canton.
Oh,
And we found 2 stores down from this little barbecue place was this amazing apothecary.
oh,
I walked into this place. I'm not even kidding you. My brain was like,
oh.
Miss Ann, I have a video. I literally was like, I need to take a video and show Miss Ann. This is like the ultimate in apothecary. It's these 1-gallon jars filled with everything you could want to buy from Amazon or any of those herbal stores, but it's all fresh and like dried, not
Yeah,
fresh.
fresh
But
dried.
they're all dried and they're all right there. And it is the most amazing place. And it smells like sage and old people, but it's a really cool place.
I'm trying not to smell
Say
blood.
an old ball. Okay.
Old people.
Old
Like,
people.
like mothballs? Old
No,
balls?
like
No.
old like flowers. I
Okay.
like geraniums. No offense to anybody that likes geraniums, but it
Like
smells like
a senior's home.
it smells like a senior's home, but not in a bad way. It just smelled
Yeah, all right. Try that again.
it smelled old-timey, okay? But it didn't smell bad.
This went really down really fast. I'm just
Anyway,
saying.
but I was saying apothecary, right? So I forage in places where I can get it because honestly, I don't know that much about wild foraging stuff. So for me, my foraging is places that I know I can just buy, right? So Amazon or now the local apothecary places that I can go grab it. I was so excited to be able to find these herbs and things that I could get to make tinctures or salves. And my dad was pretty fascinated with the whole place. He's like, "Have you ever seen that show, The Good Witch?" Yeah, she has a bunch. Like, my dad, We're not talking about TV right now. This is real life.
That's what Jesse claims that I do on my salves and oils and things. My potions and
Your
lotions is
potions.
what he calls them.
But you know
So,
what? It was awesome.
oh, I know it had to have been wonderful.
Apatha, I don't
Apatha,
carry.
I don't carry.
But yes, I am a wild Amazon forager in the Amazon forest, and that's where I forage most of my stuff. Because for me, that's a safe, it feels safe to me because someone has already done the work, right? They've already identified the plant, they've already figured it out. And for me, that feels like the safest bet. But I'm learning how to forage. So
Fingers
that's the thing.
crossed.
Yes.
That's right. And how about you, Cayce? Have you been foraging lately?
Let me tell you, foraging in the suburbs is not the same as foraging in the country because a lot of things are cut down. I mean, they burn and they cut before they build these little subdivisions. So I'm kind of like Monica. I'm foraging in Amazon.
Gotcha.
And that's where I'm going to do it. And I think I'm still having echo, so I think I'm gonna change. Because I can tell by the faces of my co-hosts when my echo is. Both of them don't have a poker face. I'm just gonna say that.
No, sorry. I is who I is. I just is who I is. Well, I got to tell y'all. So foraging to me is going out in the woods and finding what you need, right? Going in the neighborhood and finding what you need. Jackie said she forages for morel mushrooms.
Yes.
And that's where she gets her foraging. That's where her foraging ends. Jackie, I wouldn't even know what a morel mushroom looked like because
I just saw a recipe for fried morels today on my Instagram. And I'm like,
oh
I don't
boy.
even, I'm like, I don't even like mushrooms like this, but they look good. I'd eat it. Fried morels, that's a cool thing.
They
Anyway,
look, I'm sure they are delicious. I hear they're an absolute delicacy.
I've heard so too. Okay, so what do you forage for, Miss Ann?
I go out in the yard and I pick dandelions and bring up the roots of dandelions. Dandelions has so many benefits. That is something that we talked about on the podcast. I have some dandelion flowers that I have dried that you can use for dandelion tea. It helps with your digestive. It helps with your urinary tract issues. If you have any kind of problems with your kidneys or bladder, urinary tract, and the roots, which are here that I have dried, the roots, they're supposed to be like a coffee, but I make tea. I just chop them up and steep them, boil them for a while, and drink tea. I have to add a little honey because it ain't the tastiest tea in the world, but it's not bad.
Is there benefits for it?
There are just the same. The urinary tract issues, or if you have inflammation from swelling in your body, if you have extra fluid that you need to expel. And if you take too much of it, it's kind of like a laxative. So you have to be careful.
Okay.
About that part. But there's another thing that I went out in the yard. I was just looking all over the place. What do I have that I can bring in here and tell these people? Hey, Steadfast Selections, Renee. And from what I understand, dandelion is high in vitamin C. It is, James. It is high in vitamin C. You can use the leaves for salads. The flowers you can use the flowers for salves and oils and all types of things, or for teas and ointments. You can use the roots for tea and coffee. The roots are what most of the books and things talk about. I have my book, Ancient Remedies, here. And it talks about all the dosages and the usages that you can use. It tells you, and so this is called Ancient Remedies Revived.
Nice.
I brought in a bunch of books and so that we wouldn't be alone and not have anything. Lee noticed Anne's moderation. Okay, good. And then I found something. Now, I need your opinion and your knowledge on this. I need the chat's opinion and knowledge on this.
So that was the good one right there.
Yeah.
I looked up on the internet English ivy because here we have English ivy that grows like a crazy thing. And honestly, from our lot that we cleared out a couple of years ago, I could have probably treated the state of North Carolina with all the English ivy that we had, that we took down and burned and took care of it. So English ivy looks like this. And guess what? There's some conflicting things on Goggle. Yep, Miss Lisa's dandelion jelly is absolutely wonderful. That's right. So with the English ivy, the first thing that the internet said was I put in, can you eat English ivy? And the internet said, do not ingest English ivy. It
Oh,
may be some kind of poison. Well, then I thought, well, wait a minute. I've read that somewhere in a book or something sometime about English ivy. And it told me under WebMD, and another doctor said that English ivy, which grows wild and crazy just about anywhere you go. My mama planted English ivy in every house we ever lived in. As soon as it started growing really good, we had to move. that was our sign. Once the English ivy was well established, then we had to move. But it says that you can make teas and salves and oils, and it helps with, wait a minute, I've got the list right here. It says that it helps with lung function. And so if you have bronchitis or burns or rheumatoid arthritis, lots of other purposes for English ivy. It also helps improve lung function as far as emphysema or bronchitis or pneumonia, any of those kinds of things. So that's kind of conflicting, don't you think? Where one thing says don't ingest it and the other one says make a bunch of tea.
I don't never listen to the Goggle.
Well, I think there might be a difference though between ingesting it and drying the leaves and making a tea out of it, right?
Well, sure there is, but a tea you drink.
Yes, but you're not eating the leaves necessarily, right? So like I know English ivy, it says it's toxic to like cats and things like that too. So you have to be careful. So I think it also matters. So it may just be what's in the leaf itself if you ingest it. I read too that it says it's mildly poisonous. I mean, it's not going to kill you, but it might make you sick.
Yeah, no, I ain't eating it.
but again, making a tea out of it is different than ingesting it and eating it just like that, right?
Right off the tree.
Right off the tree. So I think there's a difference. It's just like with the elderberry, right? You can dry the berries and you can certainly make something with the berries, but don't you dare just grab the berries and eat them, because that you'll get sick to your stomach and that can hurt you too, right?
That's a great analysis. Yes. Comparison.
So maybe it's the fact that you can ingest it in certain ways, just not like, you just don't be taking the bark off a tree and eating it. It's just like with slippery elm and all those other things. You're not just going to eat it.
Right.
That's right.
You'll make a tea or a tincture out of it, and then it's safe for medicinal use. So I think that there's your difference.
Hey, Brian, he says, will drying my M&Ms make me healthier? I don't know about
Yes.
that, baby. I don't know. Oh, she says yes.
100%.
Freeze drying, of course, yeah.
Yeah. That is my medical determination for M&M. Okay.
Well, y'all, I also for dandelions, I see what else I have. Now, most of this is calendula.
There you go. Lazy days ahead. Jesse says raw versus processed.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel better, because
that feels like the difference there, right?
When Goggle says in bold print, do not ingest, could be poisonous, I thought, wait, it's a little weird there, but something else. And Cayce, you had mentioned in our podcast that we are not doctors.
Exactly.
And did you want to move forward with that as far as?
Well, I think it was Sandy that mentioned that, because me, I'll just say it and you either listen to me or don't listen to me. But we aren't doctors, and
Yeah. No.
even though we give you opinions that we have used and that has worked for us, you always need to do your own research before you try anything that you hear on the Round the Hay Bale podcast. Even though 90% of the time it's true, you still want to do your research.
That's right.
Yeah.
We are not doctors, and we
I
can't
was
tell
gonna say,
you.
Sandy said it more eloquently than I did, but
Well, I think too, the important thing is we do what feels comfortable to us, and we always want you to do what feels comfortable to you. So Miss Ann's talking about eating some leaves, and if you're out there and you're like, ain't no way I'm eating leaves because that's not my jam, then don't do it.
Right.
And if you eat leaves and you die, we are not responsible for you. We are responsible for ourselves and our people that live in our home. That is it. So
That's what we do, and
yeah,
you do you.
you do you, and
do
we
your own research.
love you no matter what you do. But if you die, it's not our fault. Just saying.
I just tell a funny story about goggle real fast about when you're goggling something.
Mhm.
Because sometimes I just Google in there. And the other day I entered in because, we love our Ann Dale and she's gotten so famous recently. Yeah?
Yes.
She like blowing up. So you always want to like type in Ann Dale net worth because you do that with celebrities like Kim Kardashian net worth.
No.
Net worth. And Goggle told me your net worth. I didn't know it's 5 million. And if you Google it, that's what it says. It's Ando's net worth.
That's hilarious.
So when you're doing that, do more research than just Googling something and going in because Goggle has the three of us like really rich and
Oh my gracious. I've never heard of such a thing.
so I can tell in her face she's Googling it.
I'm doing it now.
I was going to share, but no, I think you have to do your own research and not just. I think the point that I brought up with that is not just Googling it.
Yeah.
Books.
Yes.
And
Books, other research,
other resources besides that.
ask your.
Sometimes it's not always correct.
One thing that was suggested in the podcast as well is to ask your agricultural department in your county. And they usually have an herbalist that they're in contact with.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, congratulations, Lynette. 5 million. That's hilarious. $5 would be probably
More accurate.
but 5 million is quite the distance from the bank account, I can promise you. But yes, ask your agricultural department. There are classes that you can take, and there are foraging classes as well. Oftentimes, if not through your local extension office, then maybe the city next to you, if it might be a little larger. But to look online and try to find yourself a foraging class, which I think would be fascinating.
Yeah.
To be able to go out in the woods and they say, oh, well, this is edible and that's edible and this is good, but you need to do this to it. You got to cook it first before you eat it. And also, I have another book that's called Oddball Ointments, Powerful Potions, and Fabulous Folk Remedies. This was a prize that I won off of Jesse and Lisa, Lazy Days Ahead with Jesse and Lisa one time. But it has pictures of things. It's old timey. And it tells you, it says, stop the faucet. And it's talking about runny noses and what you can use naturally to be able to stop your nose running. Let's see. I booked a mark here that I was looking nasal drip.
That's cool.
Just turn off the faucet. And calendula cream, where we're growing calendula flowers. I don't know that they would be in the wild, but we do have calendula flowers that are growing. So,
well, you don't just have to forage from the wild. You can forage from your own backyard and things that have been planted. And maybe you move to a new homestead, like Cayce just did. And maybe there's some new plants that he has yet to identify that is on his property. Hi, Janice. And maybe that's something where you are foraging from your own backyard that people have planted before you got there. or,
That's
maybe your neighbors. So one of the things too that I was going to say is that, we talk about the Google, right? And comparing or using things as backup. So when you are going to forage, if you're new to foraging, one of the things you want to do is make sure you have backup sources. So maybe you just took a class and you're super confident and you go out. Remember to go out and be able to identify that. That's super if you go out with just what you learned, but maybe you need to take a book and then you look up. Don't just trust the AI on your phone, okay? Because I know
right.
a lot of people have those apps, but that app might tell you it's one thing, just like with Rebecca, right? She goes out, she sees, oh, that's mullein. My AI app says, right? Well, have you ever identified mullein other than the AI app? Maybe get a book and look at it. There's a rule of get a couple backups. Use about 3 different places to make sure before, like, once great.
Yeah.
Really make sure you have 3 different backups. And then there's a couple rules when you're foraging. One of the things you don't want to do is forage for plants in the wild near the road. Try to kind of go
Right.
off the beaten path a little bit, away from some of the chemicals and some of the things that might be on the road. People might spray. If you're foraging, make sure you know where they're spraying in the area. Maybe you're foraging on the sides of the road, but maybe further in. Well, they spray chemicals all the time on the roads and stuff. So you need to be really careful depending on where you live on what's there and where you're foraging. Location is really important. Another thing is make sure you follow the 1 out of 3 rule, or the 30% rule, where basically you only take what you need and you don't take more than 30% of the plant that's in that space. And that's a really solid rule to follow, because you want that plant to be able to replenish itself, and you
That's
want to
right.
make sure you're leaving some for others. So I mean, not like me, where I'm gonna go out in my garden. I mean, go out my lawn, and if I see dandelions out there, I'm picking all of them. But that's just my yard, right? That's just my yard. But if I see it in my neighbor's yard, I'm not gonna go just wild and pick like all of her dandelions, because she might want some.
I did that at the visitor center in Edenton the other day. I
Guess
picked
what?
every one that had.
Most people think the dandelions are weeds anyway. So pick them, and be like, I'm gonna do you a solid. I'm
I
gonna get
did.
all your weeds out of here for you.
That's right. I had one woman said, "Oh, you're going to make dandelion tea?" "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "Great, go for it." I said, "Well, I'm just clearing the weeds out of your yard.
I'm helping you.
I'm helping. Of course, I'm helping."
Yeah. Yeah. But I
So,
think that it's important to follow some of those rules too. Make sure that when you do go forward, you don't leave any trace of yourself behind. You don't leave trash or leave, you go in, you get what you need, especially when you're in a forest, or, maybe you're on an area that is really untouched most of the time. Maybe you're foraging for those berries that are currently in season in Texas here. There's berries all over the place. Maybe you're doing that. Just make sure you're not damaging the environment. Make sure you're going in there with respect and leaving things as simply as the way they were when you got in there, right? I
that's
mean, you could always take some cuttings if you wanted to, but make sure you leave the plants as close to where they were as possible, and be respectful of the people. And if you are going to forage on your neighbor's property, make sure you get permission and pay attention to that kind of stuff, because you don't want to get caught taking stuff that ain't yours.
That's exactly right.
So
Now, Casey, I live in a neighborhood. I have neighbors on either side of my house. We live in just under an acre, and we don't utilize but maybe a third of the property as far as for growing food. We maintain it as a yard with ornamental flowers and trees and bushes and things like that. But I even, that's where I went, was out in my own yard looking, and you can get wild onions and wild garlic and all those types of things. So you just have to be careful. So in your new yard and
Mhm.
your wooded area, you have some wooded area you could forage in your new yard.
mhm.
I think the one thing that we forage for is old appliances that were back there. A lot of our neighborhood, I've noticed, is man-made, as a
Oh,
Bermuda grass and that kind of stuff. So it's not anything that grew before. Trust me, I remember when we were in the old property that goldenrod,
Mhm.
right, grew rampant all over the farm, but not quite as much here. Um,
Yeah, you might have to travel a little bit. We go about 3 miles down the road,
mm,
back off way off the road to go and forage for our goldenrod. But I understand how frustrating that can be if you've got it right outside your back door and
Mhm.
suddenly you have to go actually searching for it in
Yeah.
another empty lot somewhere. But I do have some goldenrod. That's another thing that also helps with urinary tract issues that we have foraged for. It's
That's
kind of
awesome.
a fun thing that Worth and I go riding around looking for. And I made some goldenrod honey. There's honey that is the goldenrod is seeped in honey so that when I haven't strained it yet, and it's not going to hurt you if you get a little spoonful of dandelion or goldenrod in your tea or whatever you're using honey for a sweetener. It won't hurt you, but I prefer not to chew my honey. So
Yeah.
I try to strain it. And but that's also very healthy for you, as
Wow.
well as goldenrod tincture, which I'm not quite as good as Sandy as far as instructions, but this is goldenrod that has been soaking. It's already strained now, soaked and turned for, well, I probably did it for about 6 months, but you don't have to do it that long, 8 to 12 weeks. And it's vodka that I soaked it in. Tastes like pure vodka, y'all. It tastes terrible, but it's supposed to be really good. I mean, it's like straight booze. You
But
drink.
one of those things too is maybe you have goldenrod. See, I don't have goldenrod in my area that I can find. I've never seen it, and y'all have seen it. I'm like, man, I want to be able to see that. But if I didn't want to do, because I have kids, right? So if you wanted to make some of that for the grandbabies and you didn't want it to burn like the vodka, you could do that in glycerin,
Yes,
correct?
yes,
So that's another alternative. So if you're looking at us and you're like, I don't know, I don't want to do vodka,
yeah.
I just can't do it. It'll burn, or you've had that before. Just remember, you can forage for these herbs. And if you're interested in making tinctures, you can do it in the glycerin and that won't burn under your tongue. And that's an option.
That's
It's
absolutely
just
right.
one of those things you can do.
Let's see. Now, Jesse says, PSA, you should never pick weeds, flowers, or herbs that grow next to a highway because of
Mhm.
all the toxic fumes that come
Yeah.
off the road. Also, pesticides might be used along the highways, and they are. They spray the side of the highways
Yeah.
to keep all the weeds and things down from underneath the power lines.
Yep.
But y'all, there's another. Oh, I'm leaking apparently. I've got a little goldenrod tincture. I would lick it right here, but then I would be loopy in no time at all. My husband uses it. Um, what he does is stick his spoon in the jar, pulls it out, taps it off, and stirs his last cup of coffee. His knees are so much better.
Wow.
He used to work at Newport News Shipyard, walked on cement for 45 years with steel-toed boots on,
Mm.
and his knees were in terrible shape. Doesn't have any problem with his knees. They don't click every time he moves and all those things.
Wow.
But before we get out of here, because it's already been 29 minutes that we've been up here talking, you forage for honeysuckle all over the property. That's good,
That's
Ginger.
awesome.
Honeysuckle is so yummy.
What did you get? Barbara O'Neill?
I did. Barbara O'Neill, Natural Remedies. It's a complete collection of over 2,000 remedies that she has that she can share with you on her herbs. Now, I trust Barbara O'Neill, y'all.
Who is it, written by Barbara O'Neill, or is
It
it written by
is,
someone else?
well, it says Mitch Sams, but it was on her official Barbara O'Neill page. It was
Okay.
not on, there's other they're using her voice and AI in her
Oh
mouth
yeah, it's
and
really bad.
doing all that yucky stuff, and that's not. Yep. James, glycerin would be good. And Jackie says not only spray for weeds in the summer, they use chemicals to melt ice and snow in the winter on the
Yes.
roads.
That's what I was
That's right.
thinking, the winter
So you
ice.
have to be very careful. But just think about it. This is not this is not really a Jessie book that much. Hey, Ann Philback, we're glad you're here because it doesn't have a ton of pictures. It has some, but Jessie likes pictures on every page, and she might not have pictures on every single page, but she has a lot of information in here about a lot of things. And it is Barbara O'Neill, Natural Herbal Remedies. And I've loved it. And she's just the coolest thing since sliced bread to me. I just think
Yeah.
she's amazing. And she can show us how we can heal ourselves with herbs and
Yeah.
natural products. So that's good.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Let's see. Oh, I see a little blurb in the private talk there, and that was fun. That was fun. Yeah. Hey, look, you can look me up anytime. So, everyone, thank you for being here. What we were talking about was really opening the door to knowledge, right? Opening our studying and
Yeah.
finding new things. And you're worried about chemicals on the road as I smoke a silly cigarette. Good gracious. Yeah, Jackie, see, I understand. I was a smoker for decades. I get it. I totally understand. But is there anything else before I close out that you two would like to add? And they're going,
No, I mean, no, I think that we've kind of touched on a lot of it, really. I mean, you don't have to feel like you have to go out into the wild to forage all the time. Sometimes foraging may just be in your local apothecary, or maybe your neighbor's yard, or maybe you're shopping on Amazon, but getting your hands on those herbs and start doing something with them. Because I think that the best way, and the reason why we're talking about foraging and things like that too, is because really knowledge is power right now.
Yep.
And having the power and the knowledge to be able to create your own medicines, to be able to heal your bodies is super important, because it may not be around forever. And if something happened, you need to know how to take care of yourself and take care of your bodies. And if you're learning these skills now, that's how we want to encourage you, right? We really want to encourage you to supercharge your life and feel like you are really, we want you to feel powerful in that way. And we want to encourage you to find those skills and do those things. So foraging is just one of those things we're adding to our list of things that we want to do, because we know God's given us those beautiful things to use for our bodies and use for our families and stuff. So Cayce, did I take all your words?
You pretty much exactly every single word that I was going to say.
We're twins.
But I can tell you, still could come back next week, because next week is along the line of the same thing of still foraging for medicine. We're talking more about your medicine cabinets. So you may not wild forage
I got some stuff.
but you still may make your tinctures and your oils and all of the what is it? Potions and lotions that Jessica says?
Potions and lotions. That's right.
Potions and lotions. We'll talk more about it next week, so you won't want to miss it next week. We'll be back
On Round the Hay Bale podcast that comes out every Monday on Round the Hay Bale, if you want to see our faces, and any kind of podcast station that you listen to, Apple, Spotify, any of those. We're all on all of them on Monday. Different time zones, different things, usually by 10 o'clock Eastern, most of the time when the service does what we ask them to. So we certainly do appreciate you all for being here. Join us next Tuesday, where we'll be talking about our podcast of medicinal things and how you can make your own apothecary and what to do about it. So bye, y'all. Bye.
Hey, Monica, did you know it's now even easier to listen to Round the Hay Bale podcast?
What? Really? How easy?
That's right. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Round the Hay Bale podcast.
Playing Round the Hay Bale podcast on Apple Music.
Ooh, we're really fancy now.
Tune in to Round the Hay Bale every Monday at 9 a.m. Central Time.